the first of this year, I'll have Arbiter Pay linked up where we can start paying the same way. I want one. That's been my goal, to have one pay system here. But it's some things with an Arbiter that we have to go through in order to get that to work. But again, it's every 2 weeks, and it's so many different fees when you work a basketball game. If it's a 2-person JV, 3-person JV. If it's a 2-person JV with just the girls, I mean, just one team, JV boys. So a lot of different fees there. So I'm going to send it there. I'm going to send it out by Wednesday and just look at it. So when that's the checks and balances. So when you go to a game, if you'll see it. Sometimes you'll see it change, because right now, if you go into the JV and it's 2 games and it's just 2 people, it's going to say read $88. And then if you end up, I changed the assignment prior to going there, you're only going to do 1 game. That, of course, that's going to change. Same thing with the varsity game, if it's a tournament game, all those things. But I'm going to send that out because a lot of people want to know. And it's just checks and balance, guys. I don't get excited when you ask questions about your money. I mean, I want you to be as attentive to that game like you are to that paycheck. All right. Al, you can go ahead and I'll wrap up some things, guys. Y'all have some questions for me at the end. Hey, but I want to get the clinic stuff. Mr. McCray does a great job of preparing and everything else. So if you would, Al, the show is yours.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I did have one question, Earl, before
yes,
you moved on. You mentioned that we were going to try to do some on court training. Do you have? Were we going to try to do one of those on a Sunday afternoon, or
yes, Al, I'm going to try to get not in the week, during the week of the 29th, for those people that are new to the association. Not when I say new to the association,
okay.
You don't have to be new to when people when you say the word new. Now I looked at most of the ages on there's nothing new about nobody on here. Trust me. All right. I see them gray beards and all that stuff there. All right. Your hair look like mine. Look. When I say new, you're new to the association. You're not new to the game. You're new to the team. I'm going to have something with me, both during the week and on a Sunday. I know you got Billy McDowell over there. Okay. Because at those rec center, but we're going to do that probably on the weekend, but everybody can't make it then. So we're going to have some sessions during the week. And when I say that, we're going to have some prior to school. We want to meet at 6:00 in the morning because we got people working Keller Springfield, they work at different places. We're going to meet in the morning. We can meet at noon. We're going to meet at night. Because again, guys, I want everybody to be able, not be just available, but be able to work sometime during the tournament game. Our whole thing is, our philosophy is kind of designed to you to get to the highest level. Do we want people to work? We're going to work middle school games, of course. But I want some people that work in that middle school game to be able, have the ability to work at the highest level. So again, we're going to have a lot of opportunities for that, Al. So I'm going to set something the week of the 29th of next week to get together, and we'll do some on the weekend.
Okay. All right. Okay. That was my question. Okay. Thank you. All right. I'd like to say good afternoon to everyone that's on the line. And
hey, Al.
And yes.
Before you start, hold on. I got to read this before I get in trouble. Hey, just a reminder, this is a recorded call. If you don't want to be recorded, you need to log off and speak with Mr. Daniels. But this is a recorded call. By staying on this call, you give permission to be recorded.
Okay, great. Any questions, guys? Okay. All right. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
What I'd like to do is, say we covered, some information relative to points of emphasis, rule changes, and terminologies relative to our game last week. And then we actually moved on into the 3-man mechanic. So one of the things that as we've had the opportunity to participate in some of the scrimmage sessions this week, I noted that possibly a review of the three-man mechanics might be beneficial to some of us. And it's just good just to be reminded, I think, as it relates to what the expectations are relative to that three-man crew concept. So I've asked John if he would assist me in, showcasing the three-man mechanics video. The actual video is 15.20 seconds, but we're only going to, I've asked him to look at starting at position 1 and going to the 1 minute mark to the 8 minute and 40-second mark. And having the opportunity to review the video, that pretty much is a covering of what we did go over last week. So, while there, if you would just take a look, John is going to put it on the screen, and we'll, start. And if there's any questions, if someone would like to maybe stop at a certain point, John, can you stop it?
Yes, sir. If they if they're on their computer, if you'll just hit the little hand thing, that'll raise your hand, and then I'll know that you got a question that needs to stop it. Or you can put your question in the chat box. Leon just gave us a great demonstration of what that looked like. If you hit it twice, it will pull it down. The other thing I forgot to mention, Mr. Daniels mentioned this last week, but guys, remember that it tells us when you log out. So please stay with us.
Okay, sure enough. Okay, so John, if you would, this is an IBO video. Tom Lopes is the actual commentator. He's the executive director of IBO. I don't know if he's, serving in that capacity at this point, but it was a video that was developed while he was serving as the executive director. So if you would, John, if you'll start that up.
Vision line, and the U1 is observing the visitors while the U2 is observing the home team. This is a good time to check for jewelry, bandages, wristbands, etc. The referee reports to the table approximately 12 minutes prior to the start of the game, checks the scorebook, and gives instruction to the scorer and timer. At the 4-minute mark, the umpires bring the team captains to meet with head coaches and the referee. Make the meeting brief and to the point. A short response to the coaches is expected regarding jewelry, equipment, and sportsmanship. Jump ball. Starting position. The referee tosses the ball. The U1 is table side, and the U2 is opposite side in line with the three-point arc.
Black, white.
The ball clears right. The U2 becomes the lead. The U1 becomes the center. The referee freezes until the play is clear and becomes the trail opposite the table.
Black, white.
The ball goes left. The U1 becomes the lead. The U2 becomes the center opposite, and the referee again freezes until the play is clear and becomes the trail table side.
Black, white.
The ball goes left. The U1 becomes the lead. U2 becomes the center opposite. The referee freezes until the play is clear and becomes the trail table side. Primary coverage areas. As you can see from the E-Court slide, the primary coverage area for the trail is in orange, blue for the center official, and yellow for the lead official. At times, the play may necessitate a crew member to tender a ruling beyond their designated primary coverage area. The three-point attempt signal is given by the responsible official. The trail and center will mirror the three-point successful goal signal. The 3-point attempt signal is given by the responsible official. Trail and center will mirror the 3-point successful goal signal. The 3-point attempt signal is given by the responsible official and mirrored by the trail and center. The ball keys rotation. As the ball moves toward the basket line, the lead official shall mirror the ball and move toward the B position. Center and trail official are on notice that a rotation is imminent. The lead may implement a rotation when the ball crosses the basket line. To improve coverage, the lead shall apply the A wide, the B close down position, and C go ball side principle. As the lead closes down, the trail shall consider closing down. When the lead implements a rotation by moving to ball side, the trail shall move to center, and the center shall move to trail when appropriate. When pressure is applied in the front court on the center sideline between the 3-point arc and the division line, the center may move for maximum coverage. Although the lead has closed down, the center, by moving from an inside out to a topside position, initiates a rotation. The lead then crosses the basket line to ball side as the old trail moves to the center position. The center can force a rotation. When pressure is applied in the front court on the center sideline between the 3-point arc and the division line, the center may move for maximum coverage. Although the lead is closed down, the center, by moving from an inside out to a topside position, initiates a rotation. The lead then crosses the basket line to ball side as the old trail moves to the center position. Coverage between quarters. The referee is at the division line applying proper ball placement. Umpires 1 and 2 shall take a position on the neutral zone block, on the lane line farthest from the scorer's table.
Basketball is back. Stream the action live with YouTube TV.
Throw-in procedures. Tableside trail handles all throw-ins on his or her sideline on violation. The tableside lead handles all throw-ins on violations on the end line.
Wait. Designated spot.
Tableside lead handles all throw-ins on the end line.
Designated spot.
Opposite side center handles all throw-ins on violations on his or her sideline.
Tableside lead handles.
Designated spot.
This causes a switch as the lead doubles the sideline. The opposite side trail handles all throw-ins on violations on his or her sideline.
White. Designated spot.
Opposite side lead handles all throw-ins on the end line.
White. Designated spot.
Mr. McCray, I have stopped it because we have we have a couple questions.
Okay.
So Alex, if you want to go first. Alex, if you'll unmute yourself. Alex, if you will unmute yourself, you are good to go. You got to hit the microphone button for us to hear you. Okay, Alex says he is good. Next comments that we have had, a clarification question. I don't think this has come to the video yet. It says, I'm new to the organization and my question is, are you blowing your whistle at the end of each quarter? Because crews I've worked with were not, but I blew mine in case they forgot. Is there something that is mandated by the state or just within the organization?
Say at the end of quarters,
Yes,
are
sir.
we blowing the whistles to end the quarter?
Correct. That was the question.
I was under the impression that, you know, once the horn blows and the quarter's over, the only whistle that we would have would be kind of resuming play after, you know, at the beginning of the next quarter or whatever. I didn't.
All right.
I don't remember that we've ever had a situation where we would actually be blowing the whistle to end the quarter. Earl, you have any comment relative to that?
Right. I mean, unless it's something that very at the end, if you notice the clock didn't start or something like that, come back and it ends. Other than that, but that horn, that's one thing doing the pregame checks when you're watching the thing go out. Most got the light above and also the whistle. But when that horn goes, that's it. I mean, it's no, unless like
Right.
something happened right then, we're gonna get whatever comes first. As far as the whistle goes off, and it's the time remaining on the clock. There's no requirement to do that.
Right.
The next comment is the C should not rotate out until the new C is in place. Actually have two Cs for the moment.
Basically, I would say that is correct. The C is probably the last one to move when the lead is coming across, you know, for that. And I think, you know, as we cover, you know, move forward with the presentation, it would tell you that would be the case. Okay.
All right. And I
Yeah, and John, now when you say that in the quarter, I think if that you didn't specify. Now, if they just dribbling the court, it goes out and you're just playing. But if there is a shot attempt, there's a, you know, and again, a lot of times what we do is that we give the signal of no basket when clearly it's
right.
The ball, if it doesn't go in, I think we all see is no basket. But we give that, but we see
right.
we go. So when I see you do the sign of no basket, now, to me that indicates it didn't get off in time. That mean the basket does not count. So there will be a whistle in that particular case because you're blowing. Let everybody know. Okay, the shot it didn't go off, but when it goes in. Now, in the good practice is that if you know it's in the shooter's hand, you don't wait to the results of the play, then wave it off. Okay, so there's no basket. That's where we will have a whistle on that particular thing if it is a shot attempt.
Right.
Now we got questions in the queue, and so the first question I have is from Mr. Daryl Jenkins. If you will unmute yourself and you can ask your question.
Yes, I just wanted to comment
Daryl,
on the whistle at the end of the quarter.
Yes, sir.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I wanted to chime in on the whistle at the end of the quarter. The whistle at the end of the quarter. The only time the whistle would blow at the end of the quarter, like Earl said, when there was a shot attempt. Other than that, there's no whistle.
Yeah.
All right. Any other questions or comments before I start? That's everything I see. That's the only thing I see right this minute. Mike, Jerix, I am answering your question. It's just going to take me another moment to finish typing it. I'm going to start the video back if there's no questions or hands being raised.
Okay.
Tableside center handles all throw-ins and violations on his or her sideline. This causes a switch as the lead doubles the sideline. Backcourt throw-ins on violations going long. The lead handles throw-ins on all backcourt lines, which include the end line and the sideline.
Designated spot.
Backcourt throw-ins on violations. We have a travel. The lead handles all throw-ins on all backcourt lines, which include the end line and the sideline. Backcourt throw-in on violations going long. The lead handles throw-ins on all backcourt lines, which include the end line and the sidelines.
Designated spot.
Tableside lead rules foul, followed by a front court throw-in. Proceeds to the reporting area. Reports foul and becomes the
John?
opposite side center. The opposite side center becomes
John?
lead and handles.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
That's what we'll stop it at 8:40 because
All right, it is done.
because you know the information that they're getting ready to cover right now is contrary to what we actually do, and that's why I was stopping it at that point, just to
All
get
right.
us there. Okay.
I will turn you over.
Okay.
I'll turn over the PowerPoint to. It'll just take me a second.
Okay, sure enough. But were there any other questions that relative to the review on the video here?
Daryl Page, you now have the floor. Please unmute yourself.
Yes, I got a question about I have a question about the time frame that we go over and talk to the head coaches. I know that was the rule that what they just talked to us about. I know they do that down in South Carolina. They get the captains and the head coaches together and go over there at a certain time and talk to everybody at one time. We don't do that here in North Carolina. We don't go in between 4 and 10 minutes mark to go talk to the head coach. If I'm not mistaken, I think our time frame is 1 minute and 30 seconds on the clock. That's when we go over there and talk to the head coaches. And at 10 minutes, we go check the book. And 12 minutes, we talk to the captain prior to the game. Is that still correct?
That is correct, Daryl, and I was going to make that notation relative to what was presented and what we actually do. So I can say that you're right on cue. You're paying attention, and that's great. Sure enough. But again, let me say this relative to the information that Daryl just shared. All of this would be covered in the pregame. As we talk to the crew, we will cover those items relative to the time that we would actually, meet the captains, relative to the time that we'd actually meet the coaches, relative to the time that the referee would come over and meet with the scorer and the timers there at the table. All of that is covered just so that we all know, what is expected, for our game to get off with no hiccups and everything. Okay? Any other questions? Appreciate you, Daryl. Okay.
Al, I have
if we could. Okay.
My question is, once you meet with the coaches, you stay on the table side to allow the introduction of players. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is what we talked about last week, because I think it was someone did ask the question. Maybe that was Mr. Darrell Page last week, posed the question, are we, meeting and then going back across, opposite the table, or are we staying table side? And Mr. Daniels again reiterated that this year we'll be going back to what we were doing previously, coming across, and we will be staying there at the table side with the introductions and whatever other formalities, that the administration would be doing prior to the kickoff of the game. Mm-hmm.
Okay, Al, again, this is Steve James. In the introduction, are we allowing both teams to come up and give the referee U1 and U2 a high five or dap on their hand?
I'm thinking that since we are still dealing with the COVID issues, that introductions and the players would run out to the court, and we wouldn't get into the shakings of hands and all of that with players. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
that is correct, Al.
I was fixing to say, and we talked about last week, we would still be having our mask on, according to the protocol out last week. We don't, until we start the game, we would have our mask on.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Sounds good, Al. Thank you.
Okay.
Tony Hare has a question.
That's going to be hard to avoid. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
That's going to be hard to avoid if we're table side. If we're table side, the players are going to come to us.
Okay, Tony, I would suggest that, Tony, when we actually have the coaches meeting and when we have the meeting with our captains, we could go ahead and inform them that, hey, once the introductions are, starting up, we'll just have you to go out to the circle. We won't be, shaking hands or doing anything like that. That, would take away, the players thinking that they would come, or we would be expecting them to come and shake our hands and that kind of thing.
Hey, Al.
Just a matter of communicating.
Right.
Yeah.
And Al, if I may.
Hey, Mr. McCray.
Okay, hold on. Miss Daniels is trying to speak.
Yeah.
I will send some out to the 80s as well. And that's what you just said about them going, because we don't really want them going over to the other team as well.
Right.
I'll send an email out to all the ADs. I mean, for all, just a shotgun blast, and just tell them during the introductions that not to cross over, because that is, I mean, now I would ask the officials, don't jump back and act like, if they come by, I mean, in a disrespectful, but that's a reminder. But I will send an email out tonight, and I'll also send you all the email that I'm going to share with them about the player introductions, that they go out, and that's how it used to be. They come over. They won't do that because some of them wave and do different things after the games and stuff like that now. And some of them have specific instructions from their local LEAs not to get into the handshaking and stuff. But I'll send some out and just remind them when you meet with the coaches.
This question keeps coming up, so I'm just going to do it. I'm going to say it, and that way, Mr. Daniels, if I'm missing something, the mask policy it changes on a monthly, daily, what the school is going to allow to do. The referee is in charge of notifying the crew what if they can dress, if there's going to be a dressing room, what the arrival time is, and the mask policy, because that is changed. That is different per school and per LEA.
That is correct. And I will shoot something out tonight as what I know. What's the latest? We got some Hope County, got some Moore County, got some Cumberland County, those different things. Now I'll reach out to the ADs when I request that information as well, because it will change. I mean, they just changed one last week. So most of them are going to if you actively participating. And the way again, we interpret that as when they're doing their warm-ups, everybody's on the floor. They're actively participating. And once they go off the floor, then they must have their mask. And then until you summon them in the game, once the game begins, they will have their mask on. But that is correct, John.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, thank
Your
you.
slide
Mhm.
is up there, Mr. McCray, for the 3-point shot coverage.
Hey, Mr. McCray.
Okay. Yes, sir. Jimmy.
Yeah. Hey, before you start, hey, why don't we just make it easy on ourselves and not be at the table doing introductions? Okay, you one, you two go to the blocks, and the R go opposite the table. Okay, as in we're getting ready to prepare to start the game.
Earl, you'll need to speak to that.
Okay. Now, and when you're there, and I was saying, I know the private schools, normally they do a prayer, then they do the national anthem. So again, prior to the player introductions, I will run through you, come on, stand to the table. Now, when they get ready to do the, normally the prayer, they just get there. They used to get out in the circle and all the players out there, but now I think they just pray right at the, somebody, one of the players, a staff or faculty, someone comes over and grab the microphone right near on the table side. They do that. I have no problem with that. But again, I don't want to bring attention to, I would like for us to be standing there when they play the national anthem. Now, right before they do the player introductions, have no problem with you going over in the blocks, because that's like I say, because you're out of the way.
Earl, that's the point that I'm saying. Okay, so
right, yes,
prayers,
okay.
national anthem. Okay, and right when the national anthem ends, okay,
right,
you one, you two go to the blocks. R goes opposite table.
Right, but again, when you do that, make sure you're facing the table, because I say a couple of schools, even private schools, and I've seen one of the public schools practice this. Chicago Bulls cutting the lights out, do all that kind of things. Hey, just get out of the way and just. That I have no problem with that, Jimmy. That's
I think the position is facing the table anyway, right?
Right, it should be. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Right.
So if we're in position as like we're getting ready to start the contest with 1, 2 on the blocks and the R opposite table with the ball getting ready to toss, then
grab the ball and take it over with you.
Yeah, we alleviate the problem.
Right.
Al.
Mm-hmm.
Al, you hear me?
Okay, yes. Is this Billy McDowell?
Yeah, this is Billy. Just for clarification, when you started the video earlier, they said U2 has the home team and U1 has the visitor team. Is that correct?
No.
Or did I hear that?
No. They said U1 has the home team and U2 has the visitors.
That's what I thought.
Right.
Right.
Okay, guys, I have a question. If we playing in a conference that their mask's supposed to be up and the players got it underneath the chin or perhaps not covering their nose, how do we handle that? Do we stop the game or give them a warning or what?
Yeah, Steve.
Okay. Go ahead. Basically, Steve,
I'm listening.
Once we understand what the face mask requirements are for the various schools and conferences, during the conversation with captains and during the conversation with coaches, we can go ahead and alert them as it relates to what our expectations are and how we would handle that. And, because here's what you don't want to do is have to talk or ask players to pull the mask up, continuously during the course of the game. So I think it's easy to just go ahead and let them know, listen, coaches, we might ask them one time, but after that, we will, during an appropriate dead ball situation time, ask you to give us a sub for him or her. and just say, hey, he's not wearing the face mask properly, because it's their ruling. We're just going to enforce that and expect that. I guarantee you that won't happen no more than 1 or 2 times when we, stop and say, can you give me a sub for number 23? He's not wearing the mask properly. And they bring in a sub, the coaches are going to take care of that. And the players, they want to play. I guarantee you they'll do what's necessary to keep themselves in the game. Because
and again, if that happens, if we're in a conference, in a LAA, in a school that does that, the first dead ball under 4 minutes, because we're going to give them an official's timeout, not a mass time. That's what it's for, but it's official's timeout. And again, if you direct a player from the game, just remember, they can't buy themselves back in. They have to come off the clock. Again, the coaches is going to have the mask on the entire game. I mean, except when he's over there having a beverage or something like that, So again, if they're going to do it, we're going to work through the captains and work through the coach. If we have to direct a player, there's no, you say we want them, hey, we're just going to direct them out of the game, because it's obviously they're not in compliance.
Okay.
But before we do move, let's go back to Mr. Benford's recommendation, and based on what I heard Earl saying is that's something that we would actually move forward with this year. Once we began the introduction of players, prior to the introduction of those kinds of things, we would go ahead and go to the spot, and the referee would go to the division line across from the table with the ball, so that once all introductions and everything is completed, we're moving to our spot for the jump ball process to start. Is that correct, Earl?
Yes, and I'm going to follow, because again, I don't foresee that being but I'm going to address it because that's basically what we did during the last season. We would, in the public school, we really started the game off with the visitor team receiving the ball. We didn't have a jump ball during the NCHSA member schools. But like I say, it's been pointed out that according to the manual, we go right back to where our positions after that. But because I don't want to I don't want to interfere with their little player introduction, all the little hoopla that they're doing. Like one guy actually invited me, and when I went to school, to show me all the stuff they're doing prior to the game. But yeah, that's what we're gonna do. We'll do that, and that's for the next couple of days. And I say that Monday, Tuesday, and we only, like I say, that one game on Wednesday, and I'll provide further guidance this week.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna see exactly how many schools are actually with the LEAs. Like I say, gentlemen, we have 13 different LEAs that we're doing. So I'll be able to get all that information, and then I'll give you some definitive guidance by the end of the week.
Okay, Al, I have another question.
Okay, Steve.
If the ball goes out of bounds and a fan or any non-player that's on the court touch the ball, that ball's supposed to be turned in to be sanitized, and we get a new ball. Is that still the format for this year?
Okay.
No, that is not, but you can. I mean, that you can. Hey, event. Let's do that. They probably will. I will send that out on the email as well as telling them, look, we would like to have that hand sanitizer, just like we did on timeouts last year. Every time it was a timeout, we went and got a new ball.
Okay.
All right. So because again, we don't know who's been vaccinated, who's not. I don't know which one of you all have been vaccinated, and not. So again, that I will put that in there. But is that a requirement that is not a requirement as it was last year. I mean, you go, if you work the game at O'Neill, they had about 15 brand new balls. In fact, I worked the game over there last week, and if I felt, but I did go over there a couple of times and use the hand sanitizer. They still had it on the table, but that's not a requirement this year.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions? All right. Okay. I'll just say, guys and ladies, once the season gets started and we kind of, get things moving, a lot of clarity will come, and we'll be in a better position to kind of work some things out relative to, the expectations of us and of players and coaches. And some of our questions will be resolved just kind of based on, our, getting the season started. So, John, you say you actually have the presentation up?
Yes, sir. 3-point shot coverage. The 3-point shot coverage is the slide I'm on.
Okay, okay. All right. Again, let's take a look at that, because that is where we actually stopped last week. Under the 3-point coverage, you actually see here that as the video demonstrated also, if both the C and T indicates a 3-point attempt, the T referees the defense on shooter and stays with the shot, and the C releases and covers the rebound. If we understand our primary coverage areas, we should not have, we should not have, the 3-point attempt being indicated by no more than one official. As I'm looking at this diagram, I understand what the T coverage, primary coverage responsibility is. I know what the C is. So, is that a major hiccup if we actually do have 2 of them? No, it's not, but it is, behooves us, if we're actually paying attention to our area, our primaries, that should not necessarily be something that becomes more regular than not in our game. Okay? So basically, as the video stated, as it relates to, the information here, we will have an indication of the 3-point shot. And if the attempt is made, then the C and the T would actually mirror each other, indicating that the shot was good. All right. Any questions? All right. Says here, let's go down to the next section as we talk about rotations. Rotation should be thoroughly discussed at the pregame conference. The ball location keys the need for a rotation. Let me say that again. The ball location keys the need for a rotation. The TRC can facilitate a rotation, but only the lead initiates a rotation. All right. As we looked at the video, and let's talk about the C and the T. The C is stated that if the ball is over on the C side and the ball is high, let's say above the 28-foot mark, and there's a matchup, the C in that particular instance actually would facilitate what? A rotation, because he or she would actually have to move back towards the division line just to get in a proper position, so he or she can officiate that matchup there, which then in turn would pull the lead across the lane, facilitating the rotation at that particular point. It says here, a rotation should only take place when all three officials are in the what? In the front court. And a rotation begins when lead moves laterally and penetrates the key area. All right. So those are some keys as it relates to, you know, how rotation can be facilitated or initiated. But the constant for all of that is it should only take place once all three officials are in the front court. All right. Says here, the next slide reads, the rotation is not complete until the lead passes beyond the lane line extended. The lead must officiate play in the post even while moving across the lane. If the lead begins to rotate and the ball is quickly reversed or a quick shot taken, the lead does not have to complete the rotation. All right. Are there any questions relative to that? Because you know and I know that that happens probably more than we'd like for it to, but noting that if you start and the quick reversal, then it says here, hey, we don't have to complete that rotation. We can go back to where we started from. But note, there should rarely be two T's. There may be two C's for a brief period of time. Okay? Rarely should there be how many? Two T's. But there might be a possibility that we would have two C's, you know, and that's only briefly. But again, the rotations relative to the three-man mechanics is vital for us to provide adequate coverage, you know, for the players and the position of ball status and that kind of thing, so that we might manage the play and adjudicate the game, just so that, you know, we keep play going, players playing, coaches coaching, and us doing the work that we do. It says in the next frame, it says, if a trap occurs near the division line on C side of the court, the C moves higher to officiate that play, and lead should initiate a rotation. Okay, we talked about that earlier. If lead does not rotate, C should go back to a normal C position when play permits. I see this maybe happening, let's say for instance, if there's a matchup way up high and there's only maybe that one matchup up near the division line, yes, the C moves back towards the division line, officiates that matchup, and if the ball then rotates back across and the lead has not come across, then the C would return back to their normal location, which would be free throw line extended. All right. Any questions relative to rotation? I guess the keys for me relative to rotation is, first, this should be part of our pregame. Secondly, you know, hey, we should know and understand what our PCAs are. And in knowing and understanding that, then it only helps us to provide better coverage by our movement when it is necessary for us to rotate, you know, from one side of the court as a lead, simply because the lead in most instances, you know, initiates the rotation more so than the C or the T. Okay, let's take a look at the next slide. If there's no comments or questions, it talks about the rotation sequence. Lead goes to ball side, T closes down, C completes rotation, and is the last to rotate. All right. All of that is being covered previously. The next slide talks about transition after rotation. All officials must recognize rotation has occurred. If the lead rotates late and a transition occurs, it is the old lead, the new T's responsibility to look up court, making sure partners picked up the rotation. If not, the new T should be prepared to adjust his or her location on the floor. Again, this happens. And if we are running up the court and we know that our partners have not recognized that the old lead actually, was rotating across and the ball goes in the opposite direction, then the new trail, who was the old lead, it is his or her responsibility to look up and move to the appropriate location, just so we still have adequate coverage based on where our partners are actually running to. Any comments on that?
Yes, I have a question, Al.
Yes, sir.
If the ball is on the strong side, the C position should be officiating, standing per se 2 or 3 feet on the court. But if the ball is on the weak side, the C position should be off the court to not interfere with any of the passes. Is that correct? Did you understand my question?
To answer your question, I would say that any one official, based on the location of players, would kind of dictate whether we are taking a position on the court or off the court. If I'm at the C and I have players close to the sideline in my area, then my position is probably going to be off the court. If the ball is over on the strong side and there's really not that many players in the area, then yes, I'm probably going to close down just to take care of all of that activity, in my area. And the fact that I close down some, or at least get closer to the action, being in the area will maybe resolve some of the unnecessary play that we might encounter simply because, hey, we're not, in the area per se.
Okay, all right.
Our position on the court for me is, more or less judgment based on where players are and what is necessary as it relates to our responsibility to maintain control of the game. Any comments relative to that, guys? Any comments? Okay. If we can go to John, if we can go to the transition coverage after a rotation. In this particular slide, you see that the lead on the end line comes across, it rotates across, and in doing so, the C in transition now becomes the new lead. The lead comes and becomes the trail, and the C here or the old trail now comes down and becomes the C on the other end. These are just reiterating some of the comments that were made earlier and the information that was presented in the video. Okay. Any questions relative to rotations and coverage?
Mr. James, I'm trying to mute you because your grandchildren or your children are coming through to the whole crowd.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's go down to the next frame. It talks about throw-in cues, throw-ins. It says here, the L may administer throw-ins on either side of the players when staying in the what? Staying in the front court. So we can take an inside position or we can take an outside position. But noting throw-ins on the end lines requires us to do what? Hand the ball to the thrower as opposed to bouncing it. When we're staying in the what? Staying in the front court. Says here, T handles all throw-ins in the back court, regardless of the location, bump and run if necessary. That was covered in the video. The T may bounce any sideline or inline throw-in, depends on defensive pressure. Okay, let's note that we can bounce on the sideline and inline in the event that the ball is going in the opposite direction and not staying in the front court. The next frame talks about inline throw-ins in the front court. And we see that happening there. Again, on the first frame that has the lead standing outside of the thrower. And we would actually be handing the ball since the ball is staying in the front court. The next frame example there shows that the ball is outside of the 3-point circle on the end line, so the lead is actually taking an inside position relative to, the thrower and handing the ball again.
Mr. McCray, the question came out. Can you explain the long switch, please?
Okay, we'll talk about that as we go through the video and everything. I think we'll get to that a little bit later. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
It says here, sideline throw-ins in the back court. Sideline, note anything in the back court on either side or the end line, the trail official is responsible for putting that ball in play. All right. Says the T handle all throw-ins in the backcourt regardless of the location, bump and run if necessary. Inline throw-ins in the backcourt. No pressure, C and lead may go to the home location, but again, the trail is going to be responsible for putting the ball in play. And then we actually go to the foul reporting. Let's go to the question here where it says, John, who was that question coming from, John, as it relates to the long switch?
Paul Brand.
Okay, Paul. Okay, Paul, based on the long switch, if I'm in the making a call and we're going and I'm table side I'm the lead making a foul call and I'm table side, in that particular instance, I'm going to come to the table, report, and I would actually be going back. The C and the trail, who now becomes the new lead, would just, go down. Okay. If I'm opposite the table, if I'm opposite the table and I have to, at the opposite the table, I got a foul at the lead position, I would come report. The C, whose table side would actually come and replace me here, and I would just continue from the table going down to that position. Is that not what we've been doing in the past, brothers?
Yes, I just was taking a brain dump on the term the long switch that guys talk about.
Mm-hmm. But again, with the long switch and all of that, again, can be discussed in the pregame. Most of us have the little boards that we can, demonstrate and give an example of, what should happen. But I just say to you guys, once we get out on the court, in the event that, for whatever reason we don't do it as expected, then it's just a matter of, hey, going to a spot, taking care of the throw in and the two other officials, getting in position to officiate the game. Hey, it's not anything to get all bent out of shape about, but it is something that, it just makes the game move along smoother when we know exactly when and where and how we're going to do things, during the course of our game. Okay.
Al, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If the ball is thrown in from the end line and there's no pressure from the opposing team, is there any reason to do the 10-second count, or we still should do the 10-second count when there's no pressure by the opposing team?
That's why they call it a 10-second count. Once the ball comes in play, it's our responsibility to do a visual count. See, because here's what maybe gets us in trouble. In the event that you're not counting and there's an issue that comes up, if we're going back to video, let's say, for instance, last second count of situation, there's 12 seconds left on the clock. And for whatever reason, I'm in the backcourt, not visually counting, and to some degree, hey, something happens that causes the game to go awry, and now there is one coach is upset, one coach is happy because of the end result, and someone wants to protest. Coaches asked us, question. Well, how many seconds did you have in the backcourt? We got video. Somebody's videotaping the game.
Oh, yeah.
And it's noted that, you didn't have a 10-second count going. Then if Earl gets the video and he reviews it, and based on you saying one thing and the video is saying something else, it puts us in a position that possibly we can't win our case, simply because we just took for granted that, hey, there was not a need.
Okay.
There's a need for us to do what's expected. If we put the ball in play and there's nobody back there, yes, we should have a 10-second count going. And it should be visible so that coaches and players know that, hey, I got this going. That's same thing with a 5-second count. I mean, you've seen it and I've seen it. You know, when the ball's being held or the ball's being dribbled and we don't see a visible count going, the coaches say, Mr. Brad, they'll holler out and say, hey, that's 5 seconds. You know, hey. So those kinds of things, we just have to be, you know, cued in on, you know, what we should be doing. And if we know we should be doing it, then there's no reason for us not to do it at all.
Very good point, Mr. McCray. Thank you.
All right.
Daryl Page has his hand up.
Daryl?
Yes, I just want to elaborate on that, what Al was just talking about for that 10-second count. It's always needed. We always need a 10-second count unless it's less than 10 seconds on the count, on the clock. If it's 5 seconds on the clock, there's no need to start no count, no 10-second counts, because you ain't going to get there, not when it's 5 seconds on the clock. So if it's less than 10, there's no need for a 10-second count. But if it's 10 or more, we need a 10-second count at all times.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Let's go to the next slide. Go ahead.
Nothing left.
Okay. Let's just go to, you know, the next frame talks about foul reporting. Foul reporting. In the video that we shared earlier with you, you know, it had begun to talk about, you know, reporting fouls. Let me just say that as I had the opportunity to participate in the scrimmages, we need to know if I got a foul and I'm on the end line at the lead, please know that we have to work around the players, either coming high or going low, but we're actually going around the players and not walking through players. If you look at the NBA game and that kind of thing, they're basically going to make calls on the end line and they will walk through players simply because there's probably a need for them to try to separate. But in our game at the high school level, we're not walking through players, but we're walking around players and coming over, stopping, giving the color and the number, and communicating to the table, just so that when we turn and we give the nod to our partners, you know, if we're shooting free throws or the ball's going out of bounds, you know, hey, they know exactly what to do. And take our time, because we don't want, you know, the horn, once we turn, the horn blows and they posing the question, who was that foul on? Okay? That's why it's communicate, communicate, communicate. Don't get in a hurry. If we get in a hurry, it only, you know, maybe sets us up for a tragedy, you know, down the road somewhere. Okay. It says here fouls and basic switch. Go ahead, Earl.
And he said about the foul. Just remember now, a couple of years ago, we went to the two-hand reporting. If
Yes.
if the jersey number has 2 digits, there's no number is going to be greater than the number 5. Okay, so use if it's 2 digits, it's number 1 through 5. You use one hand. All others will use 2. The table, as you look at it, in America, we read from left to right. Stop. Come to a complete stop. Put your hands out front. All right, and just say the whole number, not 15. You're going to say 15. You're going to say 12, 22, 33. Hey, and this the ones on one hand, the 10s on the other, and you can just, as you're slowing down, you come to a complete stop, take a deep breath. Like, there's nothing going to happen till you finish reporting the file. Well, we walking through the files. We're not getting to the file reporting area, and we doing one hand in the other. 1, 5. That's not. It's one at one time. Again, those are the mechanics and the signals that we use because we're watching the game through the officials. All right, we got fans back in there, which gives us a great environment now to have the fans back in the game. But so sometimes you can't hear, and we got some great games starting tomorrow. Some good rivalry games. So again, slow down and come in and get it right. Because what Al's saying is absolutely correct. You're going to turn away and then come back and they're going to say, who was that number? What was that number? You're looking around. So just, again, come around the players. You got time to gather yourself. And that's how, like I say, we look when we do that. So just take the time to get it right. Thanks.
Okay. Okay. John, I have like to think it's what 522, 520, 24.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that I did want to do, just to try, it is important that we actually, stay in tune with rules and that kind of thing. So I had pulled together a video relative to 12 questions, test questions for us. And I was wondering if we maybe could go to that round at this time to kind of finish up, my section for today. Are there any questions based on the information that we've covered and the questions that we answered? There any other clarity that is necessary?
Yes, sir.
But
Al,
again,
yes, sir, Al. I want to make sure I have some clarity on this. So when we go meet the coaches at 1 minute and 30 seconds before the beginning of the game, the referee grabs the ball and the U1 and U2 go opposite the table and get in position so we will not have to touch hands or shake hands. Is that correct?
That's incorrect.
We would meet with the coaches, and after our meeting with the coaches, we would come there to the table, and once the introductions are beginning, prior to the introductions starting up, then we would move across from the table at the 60-second spot for the U1, U2, and the referee would take the ball and go to the division line across from the table and be ready after the introductions to begin the jump ball process.
Thank you so much. I got it. Thank you.
Okay.
Al, I cannot get that that video up with the quiz.
Oh, you can. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, Earl, what I'd like to do then, if are there any other comments that you would like to have at this time? Because the video, you know, the quiz was part of my presentation today, and
no, I just got a great text from an official, which is again, guys. I have just a few closing comments. And again, guys, in the quiz, that is to verify that any type of instruction that's given, to make sure what the presenter presented and what the receiver, what the audience got, was the same. It's not the embarrassing about it. We have those tests to make sure, because always I'm in a big group like today. And one of the things that was good, really good today, is that now normally, I mean, John has this set up where Google has an account where you can get 250 members on. Today, and when it got to 100, we got to 101 at a particular time, it started cutting off. So good thing about that is we got people participating and getting the information. For some reason, it's good like this, but we're going to have some other clinics, I say on-court clinics. We're going to continue doing this. We're not going to meet next week. We want everybody to have a great, like I say, Thanksgiving holiday weekend. And one thing about here, these questions, we want you to ask questions that's for the good of the group. We understand that. I mean, but again, now listening and being on these calls, I will, just like you have things, goals that you want to achieve, so do I. I mean, if you can have a bad game, I grade myself. I'll make sure I don't have a bad assignment. I don't want to make a bad assignment. And some of y'all give me some food to think about as far as that. That's what I'm saying. Some of those questions. All right. Now we have 3 source documents that they gave us from the state. I mean, from National Federation. We have a rules book, we have a case book, we have a mechanics manual. When you get off this phone, I mean, I want you to look in it. Okay. And we had it already that, hey, we had some of the scrimmages where seasoned, experienced officials, if Mr. Al McCray and myself work a game, we don't go there and compare who's doing it alongside. If he has something for me, hey, I should be in the mindset to receive that information. Okay. So again, when someone giving you some, I say you can call it criticism, you determine whether it's constructive or destructive of where you want to use it. But hey, when you're working a game, you're a team. That's how you've been looked at. All right. So when someone gives me some information, hey, you can always, hey, you're going to say, and I would have them already, that, well, this person told me this. Okay, it doesn't matter what 3 or 4 people tell you. Go look in the manual. Look in the manual, because we're going to try to get as close to the book. And I appreciate those individuals. We've had, I got an individual by the name of Jason Ennis, Gene Joyner, Derek Canty. I mean, several others new. Omeric is McKinnon here. I haven't met them personally, but we're on the phone, a lot of communications. They get people getting their uniform and getting ready. Hey, how we do it, for the most part, we're going to penalize illegal contact. Hey, we're going to do the thing. In North Carolina, we have something called zero tolerance. We're going to, hey, get the dialogue going, and it's not there to, like I say, no one doing anything to minimize your ability or cause. But again, what I want is, as we develop teamwork here and cohesiveness, hey, let's be more receptive to what's going on. I mean, it's not, a lot of times we want to just be right. I'm more of a, hey, let's just get it right. We can always do that another time. Okay. So again, hey, 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. for those military people, that's 2,000 hours. Hey, check your arbiter. Accept your assignment, update to arbiter. I'm going to try to get everybody, it's 100 people on this call, everybody who's available between now and Tuesday. That's Monday and Tuesday to have a game at some level. All right. We're going to be starting. I'm start putting these things out. I got a few days here to get everything, all the administrative stuff. I'm going to be finalized tomorrow. Some of you won't have a game because I still don't have. Some have not paid the $31 insurance. Someone have not paid the basketball insurance. I mean, the actual thing. If you haven't done, I'll be able to get on the state clinic website. I mean, but if your name, if you're fully eligible, and what I've done, if I sign you, that's like the St. Paul scrimmage was canceled on Thursday, the night they was going to have it. I gave you credit for that because you accepted it and they didn't play. That's no fault of the official. I've given everybody credit for those things they've done. And if you went to one clinic, you've gotten credits for that clinic. I still keep an account when you get to the maximum amount that you need. I mean, to say 6 is the local clinics, you'll be good to go. But again, those of you who have done everything up to this point, there's no doubt in my mind you're going to get it. I'm going to start, like I say, making the holiday tournament assignments. So if you would, sometime this week, look at the 16th of December to the 30th of December, because we have it in that 14-day period, 16th to the 30th. There are several tournaments. Some going pre-Christmas holiday, some going to post-Christmas holiday. So there's during that 2 week period, there's going to be several mini games, and some down. If you're gonna make sure if you blocked out early, some those going to be early in the day, and some going to be just like normal in the evening. Okay, so again, the finance, the game fees, and those things put out when I'll be doing the checks. The schools that I pay for, I'll put those on the list that so you'll know. So when you go there, I ask the schools that they give you the check prior to the game. And like I say, if for some reason this week, and I'll talk to those schools, the Westblade and Eastblade, because one of the schools already contacted me because the officials had not been assigned the game and accepted. Therefore, they can't prepare the checks. So again, that happens. Like I say, I'll be in contact with all those schools tomorrow. So that's why I say, if you have a game, look at the opening night. I would like for you to accept it as soon as you get it. But there will be some assignments come out tomorrow, maybe for tomorrow. Some may change because I anticipate someone tell me, well, we don't have a girls JV. We don't have this. And for the next week, this week and probably next week, I'm trying to look at getting people closer to where you commute to from work or your home. But as the season goes on, it'll be matchups. It'll be the frequency you going to one particular school. That won't be as much of a barrier as it is now. Everybody will get an opportunity to travel. So with that being said, have any questions, any other clarifications? Not, you have my email, you have my phone number. You can text me. Hopefully, like I say, this week things will slow down somewhat because we got the holiday. There's no games on, only one game on Wednesday. Now, those of you that have, it may be something come up this weekend. And I say that this weekend. They have this Hoops and Dreams, another thing that another official within the organization, I guess, supplying those officials for that. But I was asked about that when I went out doing some of my briefings to the schools, and I was asking because several of our local schools are participating in that. So if you're going to be around this weekend, in case something happens as I get involved with that, just make sure you update your blocks for this Friday, the 26th and the 27th. If I'm not going to be involved with it, I will let you know. I mean, I'll probably have a definitive answer on that tomorrow evening, because like I say, a lot of people are going out for the holidays, and we understand that. And that's like I say, subject to your questions. But this is a good sign with all everybody coming on the calls. We're gonna get out on the court. Hey, when you're out there, coordinate. Look, be out there in the same uniform. If you wear the uniform with the side panels, I expect everybody to be in the same uniform. All right. You know the default uniform is the one without. Don't make someone feel like, hey, they don't have it. If you go without yours, I mean, you're the one out of uniform. All right. That's all I have, Al. Appreciate what you do, John. Excellent job. And nobody get anything for the group, the good of the group.
Hey, Errol, the only thing I would say is I had the stuff for last week's clinic.
Okay.
Daniels is getting that put up for you. And I also have it where if you miss a clinic, you can go online and take the clinic. So, and I'll have so the clinic ends tonight. It'll be on YouTube tomorrow, and then the clinic of it, then we will. That takes me about 2 or 3 days to process, and then that'll be up, and I'll get those links. And I think, Mr. Daniels, I'm right in saying you're going to post that on the Arbiter. Is that what you said?
Yeah. Yes. Well, it's going to be both, John. You can get on YouTube as well, right?
Yes, it'll be on YouTube.
Okay.
And there's a YouTube channel. I'll send. It's just a generic link. It's just like this one. It'll be the same, and you can just go to the playlist, and it will tell you. It will let you see all the clinics that we have. And then if you need it, like if you can't be here tonight and you need it for credit, then you'll have to use the specific link that Mr. Daniel puts on the Arbiter.
Mm-hmm.
And thanks for that.
And if you're on the phone, stay on.
Yeah. If you,
Robert,
everybody understands, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
Hey, I was just going to ask you, John, where was the, what is it on YouTube? Or is it just a specific link that's got to be sent from Earl?
It's a specific link to put my hands on it right this minute. So if you give me a second, I should be able to post it.
Okay. Is it, well, can you email it to us, or is that what you're trying to do?
It would
Yes,
post it on Mr. Daniels as Arbiter.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, Brian. That's
all
correct.
right. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Anyone got anything else?
Yes, Earl. Darrell Jenkins, I do.
Yeah, DJ.
My question is, as an association, how are we going to handle the gestures after a 3-field goal has been made? We have a lot of students that like to throw 3 fingers up in the air, and other athletes do other things. How are we going to handle that as an association?
Right. Whether they do it to the crowd, they're inciting a crowd. If they're doing it, I mean, like to a teammate, to me, I consider that unsporting behavior, right? You do that toward an opponent. I mean, that's one thing else I think I said earlier about the game. In that game, you know the tenor of the game. If the game needs to do that, well, I think we always need to address that, because that's, again, because it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse. So I want you to address that. If there's something you can say, look, hey, look, hey, simple thing, hey, we have a warning. We can put a warning, but I consider that in, because again, people where they shimmy, where they do this, they start doing it to the crowd, and there you and I've been in the game when that happened, and that the young man, the player, got a technical foul, because that's unsporting behavior. I mean, but again, in the game, address that during pregame. Hey, it's okay to celebrate, but excessive, when you're doing it to show the opponent up. Again, we had people walk over at a clinic, step over someone. We actually had a fight, and all that happened prior to that. The person, when they flex and do those things, but that association guy, we have to address it. We can't go as the person running back down court, hey, I don't give it up. Because again, every time when you don't address it, it becomes the new standard. And then where do you draw the line? But as a crew, we talk about that. So when you see it, I expect the whistles more like just like a delay of the game. When the other person balls go through the net and they knock it away, we go in there, and we put a warning in the book.
Okay, I completely understand. Just wanted, everyone to be on the same page with that, where I won't have to go into a gym one night And they
Right.
say, well, last night the officials let me do it, so we'll all be on the same sheet of music. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just posted the link that has the playlist for the YouTube videos.
And that's in the chat, John.
Yes, sir. It's in the chat, and then I'm sending it to you too, Mr. Daniels.
Okay. All right.
And then you'll have it to put on there. That is the one if you are at one and you just want to review it. The other link where if you need to take it for a clinic credit, you'll have to do it. It's another different site.
I will tell you, yeah, going in and what Daryl make me think it's. I've been to middle school game, a couple of middle school games, and at a private school, of course, they've been playing. I've actually worked with the one this last week, and I was also some varsity games. We went in the varsity game, and 3 individuals. Hey, the score began the fourth quarter of the girls' game of a varsity game was 53-0. 3 seasoned veterans on there. Guys, you're going to get competitive games up front, and you're going to get some non. Guys, just stay with your mechanics. I mean, I was very proud. I left there and went to another gym and saw some very good officiating. All right. So, again, they didn't know I was there. I mean, the last group, I stopped on my way out when I'm going to another game because they were doing an excellent job, and I like what I saw. And that Daryl Jenkins, Greg Perkins, and Hush Edmonds was over there at New Life. And I left with Daryl Page, Chris Leggett, and Bruce Lewis over there. I don't know if they saw me. I didn't want to see them because the score was 53-0 in the girls' game. They probably was looking for me. Like, why did I put them on that game? But again, going up front, I mean, just work the games hard and give them your best effort. Okay. And if you do something well, trust me, people's going to notice. All right. Not that you're looking for that. Okay. But that's what I would say. I mean, hey, have a great Thanksgiving holiday. Hey, check your arbiter tonight, again tomorrow morning. Like I say, I'm gonna try to get as many people, especially if you're done all your administrative, all the things you're supposed to do, get your game here this week. And like I said, I'm gonna talk to the person that's doing the game for Hoops and Dreams, and maybe those that are available to work. They're going to have some teams coming from our area, some high-level basketball played this weekend. Like I say, that's all I have. I will be in touch and read the emails. They pertain to interpretations. A lot of the referees will bring that, and they kind of discuss it prior to the game. But I appreciate everything you do. And again, have a great week and happy Thanksgiving to all. Thanks, John.
All right,
Thanks, John.
if you're on the
Thank
phone,
you, Earl.
just hold on, and as people log off, I'll start getting you.